Hello and welcome back to TNN's coverage of the world's 9 best fantasy football players league. I'm your host, and this is what we have for you this week. It is now week 11 and the last week of interdivisional play before teams go back to playing the 3 teams in their division to end the season. With that being said, Commissioner Tooch has asked me to pass along a special message to Brett, Will, Vanek, and Joe, asking them to send their $50 buy-in ASAP. And now, here is Danny Football with his picks for Week 11. Hey, what's up, guys? World's 9 best fantasy football players expert, Danny Football here, back with another week of expert predictions. Last week, pretty good for me, going 5-1. Bringing my total on the year up to a very nice 35-13. My guest, Miguel, went 4-2, unfortunately not able to beat the experts and not able to secure himself a spot back here for the playoffs. But now, it's a new week, there's a new guest, and a new chance to beat the expert. So guest, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Okay. Let's restart that. Sorry.
Why don't you go
Um,
ahead and introduce yourself?
Everyone, it's Brett Beck here, owner, manager, operator of the Mental Brick Walls. Would like to apologize in advance to all the TNN viewers that it looks like this is being reported as a hostage video. There is a light out in my apartment, and it's really making me look like a psychopath. So excited to talk ball with the expert. As someone who has previously beaten the expert, I know the large amount of work it takes to properly accomplish that, and hopefully we can bring another victory for the Walls here today.
Yeah, Brett, great to have you here. Always great to have someone on the show, give me a chance to redeem myself. And, the team's looking pretty good. You guys might be in playoff contention. Maybe you can use some of those winnings to get yourself a nice ring light in the future. All right, first up, we have undefeated, never lost, taking on Jesus Christ. It's Jay Sanborn. Undefeated, never lost, favored at 79%. This one is not a great matchup. Undefeated, never lost. I will give them some props. They are actually in playoff contention right now, which I think is probably the latest point in any season where that could be said. So, congratulations to team owners Miguel, Danny, Schmitz. I know it's been a very long road to get here, and we'll see if they can get it across the finish line. I'm not holding my breath. Not a lot of confidence in that team, but it's a very interesting place to be in this league, where we can say UNL come week 11 is in the playoff chase. For Jay Sanborn, this team, I really do not have too much to say about them. They're not great this year. They actually kind of started out hot, and then have just lost like 7 or 8 in a row now. I'm expecting them to just rapidly try to sell any assets they have. They've got a couple of younger guys, not really the pieces to contend. And I think UNL, they've got some guys coming back. Nico coming off of IR. JSN is not going to be on the bye this week. I think they're actually going to be looking pretty good going up against a very poor Jay Sanborn team. I'm going to pick UNL to come out on top in this one.
That was a pretty good summation of the season for both of these teams so far. Just from a quick look at Jay Sanborn's roster, looks like pretty difficult bye week issues here, especially on the defensive front where they're not exactly deep to begin with. But of course, they do have some game breakers on the offensive side of the ball. But I have to agree. I think that undefeated, never lost will pick up the win here and firmly cement themselves as a true playoff contender, which is really something to behold this late in the season, and can't wait to see the content that comes out of that.
Who would have thought? All right, next up, we have Blood, Sweat, and Beers taking on Ham and Throw. Ham and Throw currently favored at 74%. Brett, who do you like in this matchup?
Not much analysis here, but just a reminder because I think a lot of people don't realize this, but the Brick Walls actually do have rights to a pick swap with Ham and Throw in the first round next year. And I just root for the funniest outcome every single week, which is Ham and Throw scoring the second most amount of points in the league and losing. I do think Hammer Thrower's team is pretty good. I don't really want to see them in the playoffs when we get there. But just to keep this narrative up, I gotta side with blood, sweat, and beers to pull off the win and get me a little extra draft capital.
Yeah, I like that pick here. People were saying at the time, Visconti, that first round pick swap may not end up being that good. He might be sweating that out a little bit right now. He is currently 2 games out of playoff contention with only 4 matchups to go. The playoff odds are not looking too great for this ham and throw team, which I'm sure the Brick Walls ownership is thrilled about being able to get potentially a top 6 pick in this draft. Blood, Sweat, and Beers, I think, has been a really interesting team this year. Everyone expected them to be very down, very low, and they've actually done pretty well this year. They're kind of in there with like middle of the pack, kind of in playoff contention. They could maybe make a push. Personally, I think it's probably better if they do not make that push and wait at least another year. But in this matchup, just looking at the pure talent of these two teams, I am unfortunately going to have to give a very slight edge to Blood, Sweat, and Beers. I can't pick Ham and Throw. I can't do it. I did it
I need
last
to go
week.
back and check. I need to go back and check. I'm pretty sure that pick swap he was for him to move up like 5 picks in the fourth round. So
Yeah.
I need to go back and look at exactly what pick it was, who it was, and then however the player that I get out of that pans out. But that can go down as an all time trade in the league, which that's just great for everyone. There's 11 winners in that deal and one loser, and that's how we all like to see it.
Whenever Ham and Throw loses, we all win. Experts, fans, owners, and that's exactly what I'm going to be rooting for this week. I'm going with Blood, Sweat, and Beers. Next up, we have the SWAT team taking on Team Big Chungus 22. SWAT favored here at 80%. This is one, two teams on different ends of the spectrum here. I think Big Chungus, as has been mentioned on the show before, is a little bit better than what the record indicates, but only just a little bit. This is not one of the true great teams in the league. They've got some good pieces. For whatever reason, they've just had terrible luck, not really been able to figure it out. And going up against the SWAT team is always a very tough matchup for teams. This is historically the best team in the league by winning percentage of championships and in the regular season. And that does not make for an easy matchup here for the Chungai. The SWAT team, I'm very interested to see what they do over the next couple of weeks. These could be 2 potential trade partners here, the Chungai and the SWAT team. I know a lot of people are going to be looking Will's way with some of those big players he's got. Tyreek, Alvin Kamara, I've been saying this for weeks now. These are guys I have my eye on. Unfortunately for Will, I do not think his team really has enough to get over the hump here. They've had some good performances. I just don't think it's going to be enough going up against the SWAT team. And I'm going to pick the SWAT team to come out on top in this one.
I think I've had this reference before, but the SWAT team truly is like the peak of the dynasty of the Patriots in that they're going to drop some games that they shouldn't early in September. But once the leaves turn, once it starts getting cold, Thanos himself, TJ Watt comes into play, and they just don't lose. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's the case yet again. I really think that there's only one team that can compete in a playoff matchup, which we'll talk about that team in the near future here during the show. But yeah, I think the SWAT team is going to win. And as I went on that little speech about them being kind of the Patriots in the height of the dynasty, I would like to use this opportunity to take another shot at Visconti, who for those of people who weren't in South Bend last weekend for the Notre Dame FSU game, Visconti, being dead serious and not joking, at the linebacker on Friday, made a comment to the effect of, "Oh yeah, I'm really not that into the NFL anymore because his Patriots aren't very good." It was the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard. Got to take a shot there. I got the SWAT team here, but I would like to give a shout out to the Chung guy, who is definitely better than the record indicates. And I think has made some pretty good decisions all year with who they're playing, and have just been playing up to some tough luck. So with some good moves here on the deadline, I think the Chung guy could be positioned to really make a big step forward in the coming years.
Yeah, we love the Chung guy here at TNN. Will, I know you're out there. I know you're watching. I'd just like to send you all of our best here, and we're wishing nothing but a very happy deadline to you and yours. Next up, we have the mental brick walls taking on Worthy of Love. Brick walls favored here at 67%. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, it was a tough bye week for my boys last week. I made the joking statement over to Timmy before the game started that no one comes into Cooper Rush's house and gets an easy win, as he proceeded to put up negative points. So that was tough. Are getting a little bit healthier and some less bye week issues. So I think in terms of the offensive flex positions, we'll see a little bit better production out of the brick walls this week. In turn with that, there's actually been some options on the defensive side of the ball due to some off-season trades. So kind of play some more matchups. I don't necessarily think that the brick walls should be as high as the record suggests, but I think this might be the year where, at least in the regular season, we play to good luck and to low opposing team scoring. And I think that the brick walls can hop right off the loss train and get back into the win column this week. So I'll side with my boys this week and get back on the right track and get you 9-2.
Yeah, I like that pick here, Brett. I'm always very intrigued when you come on the show. I feel like you're one of the rare guest pickers who is known to go against his own team. So I'm glad to see that there's some confidence there in the brick walls this year. Although to be fair, very easy to have confidence against this worthy of love team. I I like a broken record at this point. This is a absolutely horrific worthy of love team. They have no one. They don't even have like a stockpile of draft picks. Dak Prescott was probably one of their best assets that they could have traded away, is now done for the year. Just not a lot of things going worthy of love's way. They had a terrible, terrible showing last week. Like all time league low. Not actually, but on that level of scoring. Not a lot to inspire confidence. But when you look at the brick walls, they've got some pieces. The quarterback is definitely going to be an issue for this team. Trevor Lawrence needs to come back quick, and he's been a decent option this year. I don't know if he's really in that top tier of guys that you really want to have on your team if you're trying to make that playoff push, but I think this is a very strong Brick Walls team. I think they're very likely going to get that first round bye. I'm very interested to see what this team does in the playoffs, what they do over the coming weeks. Usually when I have a guest on here, I like to go and shred their team, but I'm feeling pretty decent about this Brick Walls team, and hard to say something bad about a team when they're being compared side by side with Worthy of Love. So I'm just going to get to the points, and I'm going to pick the Brick Walls to come out on top in this one. Tom, if you do somehow get a win here, I am sorry for doubting your team all year, but can you really blame me? Moving on, we have the Judon Noodles taking on Team M Vanek. Noodles currently favored at 52%. This is a really close matchup. I expect this one to actually be pretty close. Timmy's team, the Judon Noodles, currently leading their division. They did get, some may say, a fraudulent win last week. The opponent did not really show up. They did not put out their best effort. They were not sending their best last week, to put it nicely. But the Judon Noodles, I think this is now probably like their fifth lucky win on the season. This team has not been good. Even though they have Christian McCaffrey back, I'm still very, very low on this team. And honestly, if Timmy was not in this terrible division, I'd probably be advising him to sell some pieces and try to retool for the future. But he's likely going to be in the playoffs. I don't know how successful this Judon Noodles team will actually be in the playoffs, but they're likely going to be there just because of that, late season, very weak strength of schedule going up against the other Pac 4 teams. For Team Vanek, this is a team that has taken, I think, a bit of a step back from last year. They kind of came out of nowhere coming up to that second place game. This year, they're more around 500. And a lot of their guys that really broke out last year, like Sam Laporta, Tank Dell, you know, they haven't completely fallen off. They've definitely taken a step back from where team owner Mike Vanek would like them to be. When it comes down to the talent between these two teams, though, I think one is clearly ahead of the other. And with that being said, I'm going to go with Team M Vanek to get the win here. right the ship and position themselves very nicely to make a late season playoff push.
Yeah, I like that analysis. I think that Team Mvanek is a solid, really solid roster, and definitely a team that can make some noise if they make it to the playoffs. Has all the pieces to push forward. And far be it for me to discount the expert's opinion, but I'm going to push back a little bit slightly here as it pertains specifically to this matchup. I think Audric Estime is going to get first team touches, which
Mm-hmm.
should really help booster a running back room for the Noodles that hasn't been exactly super deep so far this year, especially with Christian McCaffrey out. I also just think from a matchup perspective and some of the players that Team Vanek has on their team on the offensive side of the ball, that you might not see some of those big productions out of players such as Laporta or Derrick Henry this week, which obviously have put forth some really good efforts in the last couple of weeks. So I think that this is going to be a very good matchup. Actually, definitely worthy of being considered the featured matchup of the week. But I'm going to side with the Noodles here. I think that they can pull one out, but I think I'm with you in terms of long term. I'm higher on Team M Vanek for the rest of the season, but we're going with the Noodles in this matchup.
Finally, in our marquee matchup of the week, we have the Tex Arcana Bandits taking on Too Many Conks. Conks currently favored at 62%. Brett, who do you like here?
Yeah, this is a really tough matchup. These two teams, I think, are very clearly true championship contenders. You know, as much as a team that doesn't have TJ Watt can be a championship contender in this league. And I am kind of at the point where I think that this actually is the year someone else doesn't win. So, kind of regardless of what I think of this matchup, I got to side with the Bandits. The expert knows ball. It's been high on the Bandits for the last 5 years. I think the team's putting it together. I think the Eagles' offense is starting to click, and I think that it's not necessarily going to involve as much Jalen Hurts rushing as we've seen in call it the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I think when we start getting some more receiving yards for the Eagles wide receivers, we're going to see some big individual offensive performances put up. And I think the Bandits are going to click into gear, potentially get the other first round bye, and eventually go on and win the whole thing here. So I like the Bandits.
Yeah, I like that pick here. This is one. It was in contention with the matchup before this between Team M Vanek and the Judon Noodles for the marquee matchup. Two really big games for the playoff positioning going forward. The Bandits, they're in a really good spot. They've scored the most points of any team in the league. They're going to be trying to fight with the SWAT team for that first round bye. And obviously, the Conks, they got hot, won a couple games in a row, and then really just had a dud last week, putting up like 150 points or so. I'm very curious to see how they rebound from that. It's usually pretty hard to, make that big step from week to week. Usually, if you see one bad performance, the guys probably aren't going to be doing too great the next week. The Bandits, on the other hand, as fans of the show know, Brett, I appreciate the shout out here. I have been high on the Bandits for a long time. Everyone knows that I am high on the Bandits. And I'd like to make one little piece of analysis here because some people may have thought that my fandom of Trayvon Walker was a joke, a meme, some may say. Some people may have said that I was clowning on Grayson for drafting this man with the first pick of the second round in the rookie draft. And I would like to say to all of the Trayvon haters out there that this was not true. I have loved this man from the start. He has gotten 7.5 sacks on the season. He is turning into the true IDP stud that the Bandits saw in their scouting report on that draft night. And I know that in this battle of two teams with great defensive lines, big names on the defensive lines, Trayvon is going to go out there and lead the Bandits train to a great win over the Conks. I am going with the Bandits to pick up a big win in this one. Well, Brett, thank you so much for being on the show this week. It's great to have you on. I am wishing you all the best of luck with your picks, of course. Not as good as me, can't be the expert, but it's been great having you. And maybe we'll see you again come playoff time. I'm sure we'll see the team. Maybe we'll see you. And maybe if you're back here to pick, we may actually see you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Love to be on, and as I know the expert likes the Brick Walls owner being unbiased and picking against his team. I'm sure if I have the privilege of being back on, especially around the playoff time, you'll probably see me picking up the Brick Walls. So it was great to be on.
And thank you, Danny Football and guest Brett, for those great picks. That's all we have for you this time. Be sure to tune in next week to see how things shook out. I'm your host, and this has been TNN.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell.